Good morning, everyone. Have you ever looked back at a season of your life and realized that what felt like a setback was actually a setup? That the doors that closed, the plans that fell apart, and the dreams that seemed delayed were not signs that God had forgotten you, but evidence that He was guiding you somewhere greater. Many of us spend our lives holding tightly to our own plans. We map out our future, create timelines, and decide how our story should unfold. But when life takes an unexpected turn, we often find ourselves frustrated, disappointed, and asking, God, why isn't this happening the way I planned? What if the very thing you're resisting is the path God is using to prepare you? What if His detours are leading you to a destination far better than the one you chose for yourself? Today, I want to speak to you about a truth that has the power to transform how we face uncertainty, disappointment, and delay. Asterisk, trust God's plan over your own. Because when God's purpose meets our surrender, miracles begin to unfold in ways we never could have imagined. One of the greatest challenges we face in life is accepting that we do not see everything. We see the present moment, but God sees the entire journey. We see today's struggle, but God sees tomorrow's breakthrough. We see the closed door, but God sees the better opportunity waiting ahead. This is why trusting God's plan can be difficult. Human nature wants certainty, control, and immediate answers. We want to know where we are going, how we will get there, and when everything will work out. Yet God often calls us to walk by faith rather than by sight. Think about a puzzle spread across the table. If you hold only one piece in your hand, it makes little sense. The colors seem random and the shape appears insignificant. But the person who sees the completed picture understands exactly where that piece belongs. In many ways, our lives are like that puzzle piece. We focus on one event, one disappointment, one unanswered prayer, or one unexpected challenge. God, however, sees the entire masterpiece. He knows how every experience, every lesson, every victory, and every setback will fit together to accomplish His purpose. Many times we become discouraged because life does not unfold according to our expectations. We create plans for our careers, relationships, families, ministries, and dreams. We imagine a straight path from where we are to where we want to be. But reality often looks very different. There are detours, delays, obstacles, and seasons of waiting. During those moments, it is easy to question God's direction. We may wonder if He has forgotten us or if our prayers have gone unheard. Yet God's perspective is far greater than our own. What appears to be a delay may actually be protection. What feels like a loss may be preparation. What seems like an ending may simply be the beginning of something better. Throughout history, countless people have discovered that God's plan exceeded anything they could have designed for themselves. There were moments when circumstances appeared confusing and painful, yet later they realized that every step had a purpose. God was arranging situations, developing character, opening the right doors, and closing the wrong ones. At the time, they could not understand what He was doing. Looking back, however, they saw His hand at work in every detail. Trusting that God sees the bigger picture does not mean we will always understand His methods. There will be times when answers do not come quickly. There will be moments when prayers seem delayed and opportunities disappear. In those seasons, faith becomes essential. Faith is believing that God is working even when we cannot see evidence of it. Faith is choosing confidence in God's wisdom over confidence in our own understanding. It is the decision to believe that His vision is clearer, His knowledge is greater, and His plan is better than anything we could create ourselves. When we rely only on our own perspective, fear often takes control. We worry about what might happen tomorrow. We become anxious about situations beyond our control. We spend energy trying to solve problems that only God can handle. But when we remember that God sees the bigger picture, peace begins to replace fear. We no longer have to carry the burden of knowing everything because we trust the one who already does. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. Your view is limited. You can see only a small portion of the landscape around you. Now imagine standing at the peak. Suddenly, everything becomes clearer. You can see roads, valleys, rivers, and destinations that were hidden before. God's perspective is infinitely higher than ours. He sees every detail of our lives from beginning to end. Nothing surprises Him. Nothing catches Him off guard. Every challenge we face is already known to Him, and every solution is already within His reach. This truth should bring comfort to our hearts. We do not have to understand every step before taking it. We do not have to have all the answers before moving forward. We simply need to trust the one who sees what we cannot see. When we place our lives in God's hands, we acknowledge that His wisdom is greater than our knowledge and His plans are greater than our expectations. Even when the path seems unclear, we can move forward with confidence, knowing that God is guiding us according to a purpose far bigger than anything we can presently imagine. One of the hardest experiences in life is waiting for something we deeply desire. We pray, we hope, we work hard, and we believe, yet the answer does not come when we expect it. In those moments, disappointment can quietly enter our hearts. We begin to wonder if God has heard our prayers. We question whether our dreams will ever become reality. We compare our journey to others and ask why their blessings seem to arrive sooner than ours. But one truth we must never forget is this: delays are not denials. Just because something has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. Just because God has not answered in the way we expected does not mean He is ignoring us. God's timing is different from our timing. While we often focus on speed, God focuses on purpose. We want immediate results, but God is concerned with preparing us for the blessings He intends to place in our lives. Many of us have experienced moments when we wanted something desperately, only to discover later that we were not ready for it at the time. Looking back, we realize that the delay served a purpose. It protected us, matured us, strengthened us, and prepared us. What felt frustrating in the moment eventually revealed itself as wisdom. The same principle applies to God's plan. When He delays something, it is often because He is working behind the scenes in ways we cannot yet see. Think about a farmer planting seeds in the ground. After planting, the farmer does not expect a harvest the next morning. Growth takes time. Roots must develop beneath the surface before anything becomes visible above the ground. During that hidden season, important work is taking place even though there is no immediate evidence of it. In the same way, God often works beneath the surface of our lives. While we may not see visible progress, He is preparing circumstances, developing character, opening opportunities, and aligning situations according to His purpose. The challenge is that we live in a world that values instant results. We can receive information in seconds, communicate across the world instantly, and accomplish tasks faster than ever before. Because of this, waiting feels uncomfortable. Yet some of life's greatest blessings cannot be rushed. Strong character takes time to develop. Deep faith requires seasons of testing. Wisdom grows through experience. God understands that if certain blessings arrive too early, we might not have the maturity, perspective, or strength to handle them properly. Sometimes delays also protect us from things we cannot see. There may be people, situations, or opportunities that appear perfect from our limited perspective, but are not part of God's best plan. When a door closes or an opportunity disappears, our first reaction may be disappointment. Yet later we often discover that God was protecting us from unnecessary pain or guiding us towards something greater. What seemed like rejection was actually redirection. What looked like a setback was really divine guidance. One of the greatest dangers during seasons of delay is allowing discouragement to replace faith. When answers do not come quickly, it is easy to assume the worst. We may begin to think that our prayers are pointless or that our dreams are impossible. But faith reminds us that God's silence does not mean God's absence. Even when we cannot see Him moving, He is still at work. Even when circumstances remain unchanged, His plan continues to unfold. Patience is not simply waiting, it is maintaining trust while waiting. Anyone can remain hopeful when everything is happening according to plan. True faith is revealed when we continue believing despite uncertainty. It is choosing confidence in God's promises even when the timeline remains unclear. It is trusting that the author of our story knows exactly when each chapter should unfold. There is a significant difference between a denial and a delay. A denial means something will never happen. A delay means the timing is not yet right. Many people abandon their dreams because they mistake a delay for a denial. They stop believing, stop praying, and stop moving forward because they assume the waiting season is permanent. But God's timing often requires patience. He sees factors that we cannot see. He understands details that are hidden from our view. He knows when circumstances, opportunities, and preparation have reached the right point. The waiting season can become a place of growth rather than frustration. Instead of focusing on what has not happened yet, we can focus on what God is teaching us now. Every delay carries lessons. Every waiting season develops qualities that will serve us in the future. God is not wasting time, He is using time. While we are waiting for the blessing, He may be preparing us to steward it wisely, appreciate it deeply, and use it for a greater purpose than we ever imagined. One of the most difficult things a person can do is let go of control. We naturally want to manage every detail of our lives. We create plans, set goals, establish timelines, and imagine how our future should unfold. There is nothing wrong with having dreams and ambitions, but problems arise when we become so attached to our own plans that we struggle to trust God with the outcome. This is where surrender becomes necessary. Surrender requires faith because it asks us to place our confidence in God's wisdom instead of our own understanding. For many people, surrender sounds like weakness. It sounds like giving up or accepting defeat. But true surrender is not weakness at all. It is one of the greatest acts of strength a person can demonstrate. It takes courage to release control. It takes humility to admit that God's perspective is greater than ours. It takes faith to believe that even when we do not understand what He is doing, He is still working for our good. The reason surrender is so challenging is that we often equate control with security. We think that if we can predict every outcome and manage every situation, we will be safe. Yet life constantly reminds us that many things are beyond our control. Unexpected challenges arise, opportunities appear and disappear, circumstances change without warning. No matter how carefully we plan, there will always be situations we cannot manage on our own. In those moments, surrender becomes less about losing control and more about recognizing who truly holds control. Faith begins where certainty ends. If we could see every step of the journey, faith would not be necessary. If we knew exactly how every problem would be solved, trusting God would be easy. But faith means moving forward even when the path is unclear. It means believing that God knows what He is doing even when we cannot see the full picture. Surrender is the practical expression of that faith. It is saying, God, I may not understand this season, but I trust You with it. Imagine holding a tightly closed fist. When your hand is clenched, nothing can be placed into it because it is already occupied. Many people approach life this way. They hold tightly to their expectations, their plans, and their desires. They refuse to release what they want because they fear what might happen if they let go. But surrender opens the hand. It creates space for God to place something better than what we were holding on to. Sometimes the very blessing we are praying for requires us to first release our grip on our own agenda. One of the greatest obstacles to surrender is fear. We fear disappointment. We fear uncertainty. We fear that God's plan may be harder than our own. We fear losing something valuable. Yet faith challenges those fears. Faith reminds us that God is trustworthy. It reminds us that His character is good even when His methods are difficult to understand. We may not know every detail of His plan, but we can trust the one who created the plan. There are times in life when surrender feels especially difficult because circumstances seem unfair or painful. We may experience loss, failure, rejection, or unexpected setbacks. During those moments, our instinct is often to fight for control. We try harder, worry more, and become consumed with finding answers. Yet many times, peace arrives not when we gain more control, but when we finally release it. There is freedom in acknowledging that God is carrying responsibilities we were never meant to bear. Surrender does not mean becoming passive or refusing to take action. Faith and surrender are not excuses for inactivity. We still work diligently, pursue opportunities, and make wise decisions. The difference is that we no longer place our ultimate trust in our own abilities. We do our part while trusting God to do what only He can do. We move forward with confidence, knowing that the outcome rests in His hands rather than our own. Throughout life, there will be moments when God's direction does not align with our expectations. He may lead us down paths we would never have chosen. He may close doors we desperately wanted opened. He may ask us to wait when we are eager to move forward. These moments become opportunities to exercise faith through surrender. Every time we choose trust over control, our relationship with God grows stronger. Every time we release our need to understand everything, we deepen our dependence on Him. Surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a daily choice. Every day presents opportunities to trust God with our worries, our dreams, our relationships, our future, and our unanswered questions. Some days that choice feels easy. Other days it requires tremendous courage. Yet each act of surrender strengthens our faith because it reminds us that our lives are not resting on our limited understanding. They are resting in the hands of a God whose wisdom is perfect, whose timing is flawless, and whose plans are greater than anything we could create for ourselves. One of the greatest struggles people face is accepting that God's timing is different from their own. We live according to calendars, schedules, deadlines, and timelines. We set goals and expect results within a certain period. When things happen quickly, we feel encouraged. When they take longer than expected, frustration often begins to grow. We wonder why our prayers have not been answered yet, why opportunities have not appeared, or why certain dreams remain unfulfilled. Yet one of the most important truths we can learn is that God's timing is perfect, even when it does not match our expectations. Human beings often focus on what they want, while God focuses on when it should happen. We see the desire, God sees the timing, we see the destination, God sees the entire journey. Because our perspective is limited, we frequently assume that sooner is always better. But there are many situations in life where receiving something too early can be just as harmful as receiving it too late. God's wisdom allows him to know exactly when the right moment has arrived. Think about fruit growing on a tree. No matter how much someone wants it to ripen faster, forcing the process will not improve the result. Fruit becomes sweet and ready only after sufficient time has passed. If it is picked too early, it lacks the quality and maturity it was meant to have. In many ways, God's blessings operate according to the same principle. Certain opportunities, relationships, responsibilities, and achievements require preparation. They require growth that can only occur over time. God understands this process perfectly. Many people spend their lives looking back and realizing that what once felt like an unbearable delay was actually a blessing. At the time, they could not understand why a door remained closed or why a prayer seemed unanswered. They felt disappointed and confused. Yet years later, they recognized that they were not ready for what they had been requesting. Their circumstances needed adjustment. Their character needed development. Their perspective needed growth. What appeared to be a delay was actually preparation for something better. God's timing is not random, it is intentional. Every season serves a purpose. There are seasons for planting and seasons for harvesting. There are seasons of learning and seasons of leading. There are seasons of waiting and seasons of receiving. Problems arise when we try to force one season into another. We become impatient during preparation because we want promotion. We become discouraged during waiting because we want immediate results. Yet each season contributes something valuable to our growth. One reason God's timing feels difficult to trust is because we rarely see what He is doing behind the scenes. While we focus on visible circumstances, God is often working in unseen ways. He may be arranging opportunities that have not yet appeared. He may be connecting people whose paths have not yet crossed. He may be preparing solutions before problems even arise. Because we cannot see this hidden activity, we sometimes assume nothing is happening. In reality, God may be accomplishing more than we can imagine. Patience becomes essential when trusting God's timing. Patience is more than simply waiting. It is maintaining hope while waiting. It is refusing to allow disappointment to destroy faith. Anyone can remain confident when answers arrive immediately. True trust is revealed when we continue believing despite uncertainty. Patience demonstrates confidence that God knows what He is doing, even when His schedule differs from ours. One of the greatest temptations during seasons of waiting is comparison. We look at other people's lives and wonder why their blessings seem to arrive sooner. We compare our journey to theirs and begin questioning God's fairness. But comparison is dangerous because every person's path is unique. God is writing a different story for every individual. What is right for one person may not be right for another. Just because someone else's breakthrough arrives sooner does not mean God has forgotten about you. It simply means He is working according to a different timetable. Trusting God's timing also requires humility. It requires accepting that His knowledge exceeds our own. We often believe we know exactly when something should happen, yet our understanding is limited by what we can currently see. God sees the future with complete clarity. He understands consequences, opportunities, relationships, and outcomes that remain hidden from us. Because of this, His timing is based on perfect wisdom rather than incomplete information. There are moments when waiting feels painful, dreams remain unfulfilled, prayers seem unanswered, doors remain closed. During those times, it is easy to become discouraged. Yet those moments provide opportunities to deepen faith. They remind us that our confidence should not depend on circumstances alone. It should rest in the character of God. If God is wise, loving, and trustworthy, then his timing can be trusted as well. The beauty of God's timing is that it often exceeds our expectations. What we thought was taking too long frequently arrives at exactly the right moment. Looking back, we realize that every delay, every lesson, every challenge, and every season of waiting played a role in preparing us for what was ahead. The things we once questioned begin to make sense. The frustrations that once troubled us reveal hidden purpose. We discover that God was never late. He was never absent. He was never ignoring our prayers. He was carefully orchestrating events according to a plan that was wiser, greater, and more complete than anything we could have imagined for ourselves. Waiting is one of the most challenging experiences in life. Most people enjoy progress, movement, and visible results. We like to see evidence that our efforts are producing something meaningful. When answers come quickly, our confidence grows. But when days turn into months and months turn into years, waiting can become difficult. During those seasons, it is easy to focus on what we do not have, where we have not arrived, or what has not happened yet. However, one of the most important truths we can understand is that growth happens in the waiting. Many people view waiting as wasted time. They see it as a pause in life, a frustrating interruption between where they are and where they want to be. Yet God often sees waiting differently. He uses waiting seasons as classrooms where valuable lessons are learned. While we are focused on reaching the next destination, God is focused on shaping who we become along the journey. The destination matters, but the person we become while traveling there matters even more. Think about a tree. Before it grows tall enough for everyone to admire, an important process takes place underground. Roots spread deep beneath the surface where nobody can see them. This hidden growth creates the strength necessary to support the tree as it continues to grow. Without strong roots, the tree would not survive storms or difficult weather conditions. In the same way, God often develops our spiritual roots during seasons of waiting. The work may be invisible as to others, but is essential for the future He has prepared. Waiting develops patience. Patience is not something people naturally possess in abundance. It is usually learned through experience. When everything happens immediately, patience has little opportunity to grow. But when we must wait, trust, and persevere despite uncertainty, patience begins to mature within us. Over time, we learn that not everything valuable arrives instantly. Some blessings require preparation, endurance, and faith. Waiting also strengthens character. Character is formed when we choose the right attitude during difficult circumstances. Anyone can remain positive when life is easy. True character is revealed when we continue to trust God despite delays and disappointments. During waiting seasons, we face choices every day. We can become bitter or remain hopeful. We can complain or continue believing. We can give up or keep moving forward. These decisions shape who we become. Another important aspect of waiting is that it teaches dependence on God. When life unfolds according to our plans, it is easy to rely on our own abilities. We become confident in our strategies, resources, and efforts. But waiting often places us in situations where our own strength is not enough. We reach points where we realize that only God can open certain doors, provide certain answers, and create certain opportunities. This realization deepens our relationship with Him and reminds us that our ultimate source of strength comes from His guidance rather than our own understanding. Growth during waiting is not always comfortable. In fact, it is often challenging. There may be moments of uncertainty, frustration, and confusion. Questions arise that seem to have no immediate answers. Yet discomfort does not mean God is absent. Many times, growth occurs precisely because we are being stretched beyond our comfort zones. Just as muscles grow stronger through resistance, faith often grows stronger through seasons of waiting. Waiting also provides opportunities for preparation. Many people focus so intensely on receiving a blessing that they overlook the responsibility that comes with it. God understands that every opportunity requires readiness. A promotion requires leadership skills. A calling requires maturity. Greater influence requires greater wisdom. During seasons of waiting, God often prepares us for responsibilities we have not yet received. What feels like a delay may actually be training for the future. One of the dangers during waiting seasons is becoming discouraged because progress is not immediately visible. We assume that if we cannot see change, then nothing is happening. But some of the most important growth occurs beneath the surface. Wisdom is growing, faith is deepening, character is strengthening, perspective is expanding. These developments may not be obvious day by day, but over time they create significant transformation. Consider how different life would be if every desire were fulfilled instantly. There would be little opportunity to develop perseverance, patience, humility, or trust. Yet these qualities are often what prepare people for long-term success and fulfillment. God is not merely interested in giving us what we want. He is interested in helping us become who we are meant to be. Sometimes that process requires waiting. The waiting season is not an empty season. It is not a meaningless gap between blessings. It is an active period of development. Every challenge, every prayer, every lesson, and every moment of trust contributes to growth. Even when circumstances appear unchanged, God continues His work. He is shaping attitudes, strengthening faith, refining character, and preparing hearts for what lies ahead. When the waiting season finally ends and the answer arrives, many people discover something remarkable. They realize they are no longer the same person who began the journey. They have grown stronger, wiser, more patient, and more confident in God's faithfulness. The blessing becomes valuable, but the growth that occurred during the waiting becomes equally significant. They understand that God was not simply preparing a future for them. He was preparing them for the future. One of the greatest struggles people face is choosing between what they want and what God intends. We all have preferences. We have ideas about how life should unfold, what opportunities we should receive, which doors should open, and how quickly our goals should be achieved. These desires are natural. They reflect our hopes, ambitions, and expectations. However, there are times when God's purpose leads us in a different direction than our personal preferences. In those moments, we must decide whether we will cling to what we want or trust that God's purpose is greater than our preference. Preferences are often based on limited understanding. We make decisions according to what we can currently see, feel, and understand. We evaluate situations from our present perspective. God's purpose, however, is based on complete knowledge. He sees the beginning and the end. He understands consequences before they occur. He knows which opportunities will help us grow and which ones may ultimately harm us. Because His perspective is unlimited, His purpose often reaches far beyond what we can imagine for ourselves. Many people experience disappointment when life does not unfold according to their plans. They pray for a specific outcome and receive a different answer. They pursue one opportunity only to see the door close. They expect a certain path, but circumstances lead them somewhere else entirely. In those moments, frustration can easily take root. We wonder why God did not allow things to happen according to our wishes. Yet with time, many people discover that what they initially viewed as a disappointment was actually a divine redirection. There is a significant difference between what feels good in the moment and what fulfills a greater purpose. Preferences often focus on comfort, convenience, and immediate satisfaction. Purpose focuses on impact, growth, and long-term significance. We naturally gravitate toward what is easy and familiar. God often calls us toward what is meaningful and transformative. The path of purpose may not always be comfortable, but it ultimately leads to greater fulfillment. Consider how often people look back on their lives and recognize that their greatest growth came through experiences they never would have chosen. Challenges they wanted to avoid taught them resilience. Delays they disliked developed patience. Closed doors they mourned redirected them toward better opportunities. If they had been given complete control, they might have selected an easier path, but they would have missed important lessons that shaped their character and strengthened their faith. Purpose is often larger than personal ambition. While preferences usually focus on what benefits us, purpose frequently involves serving something greater than ourselves. God's plans are not limited to our comfort or convenience. They often include opportunities to influence others, encourage people, and make a lasting difference. Because of this, His purpose may require sacrifices that our preferences would never willingly choose. One reason people struggle with purpose is because it often requires uncertainty. Preferences usually seek predictability and control. We like knowing where we are going and how everything will work out. Purpose, however, often requires faith. God may reveal the next step without revealing the entire journey. He asks us to trust Him even when the destination is not fully visible. This can feel uncomfortable because it challenges our desire for certainty. Yet faith grows when we learn to follow God's direction despite unanswered questions. Another challenge is that purpose sometimes involves waiting. We may feel ready for something today, while God knows that the right time has not yet arrived. Our preference is immediate fulfillment. God's purpose may require preparation first. During those waiting seasons, it is easy to become discouraged, but God understands that timing matters. He knows that certain blessings are most effective when they arrive at the proper moment. What feels like delay from our perspective may actually be wisdom from His perspective. Purpose also requires trust when circumstances do not make sense. There are moments when God's direction appears completely different from what we expected. We may find ourselves walking through unfamiliar territory, facing challenges we did not anticipate. During those times, our preferences urge us to return to what feels safe and comfortable. Purpose invites us to keep moving forward, trusting that God is leading us towards something greater than we can currently see. One of the most freeing realizations a person can have is understanding that God's purpose does not depend on human logic alone. He is able to create opportunities where none seem to exist. He can turn setbacks into stepping stones and difficulties into opportunities for growth. What appears impossible from our perspective remains possible within His plan. This truth allows us to release our need to understand every detail and instead focus on trusting His guidance. When people choose purpose over preference, they often discover a deeper sense of fulfillment. Temporary desires may bring short-term satisfaction, but purpose brings lasting meaning. There is something powerful about knowing that your life is connected to a greater plan. Even difficult seasons become easier to endure when you believe they are contributing to something significant. As time passes, many people look back and realize that God's purpose exceeded their expectations. The things they once desperately wanted seemed small compared to what God ultimately provided. The paths they resisted became the roads that led to growth. The opportunities they lost made room for better ones. What they initially viewed as interruptions turned out to be important parts of a larger story. They discovered that while their preferences were based on limited vision, God's purpose was built on perfect wisdom, deeper meaning, and a future far greater than anything they could have designed for themselves.